Tell you what, I should not have broken the rose-colored glasses because reports are out, sources are saying that Kevin Durant to the Golden State Warriors for a little reunion is likely, folks. Let's discuss.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
There's not many defenses in the world that can stop him.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? Welcome into Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A lot of ways you can check out this show. YouTube's a good way. If you're hanging with us right now, be sure to give us that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell so you know when shows are going live, even at 3 o'clock Pacific. But that is what we do when we have not breaking news, but breaking rumors and very substantial rumors that we will get into. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Now is a good time to tell you that we do have a newsletter. LockedOnDaily.com sends that free newsletter with Warriors notes, news, nuggets, NBA news. Everything is all sent to your email, and it is free. My name is Charlie Walter, the host of this show, formerly 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. And while I was there, also CBS News Bay Area, I covered the Warriors. And while I was at both those places, this rumor was brought up every single year towards the trade deadline. Kevin Durant to the Warriors. This time it feels a little different. My co-host today, Michael Loginoff, a city guy, actually San Mateo guy, but played his basketball in the city at St. Ignatius, Division III, Colby College. You may have seen him on ESPN for his hit way back when. Met the guy for the first time last night at Chase. I can tell you he knows his ball. And today we are here to talk about the potential of Kevin Durant coming back to the Bay to team up with Steph Curry, a little senior citizen victory tour to see if they can get one more. Let's start off with, hop in the comments. Is anyone watching the show not a fan of this trade? We'll put you on the spot. Are you not a fan of this trade, Michael?
I'm definitely a fan of this trade. I think
you gotta be. Come on now.
We've got to come home. We got to bring KD back home. Let's win another one. Let's bring him back. I think it's something that we've talked a lot about this season, Chuck, is thinking about what kind of a move do you make? And is it a needle moving sort of an acquisition? And this is one of those deals that you can make that moves a needle, right? I mean, what the Warriors are fortunate to have right now, I think, is we have a lot of depth and a lot of kind of high-end middle tier talent, if that makes sense, right? But what we don't have and what we're kind of missing is that top-end talent. Someone
what
that
they're
can
missing?
Compete alongside of Steph.
And we both saw this last night against the Orlando Magic. What they're missing is when a defense decides to throw three people at Steph and he's on the left wing or whatever, and he's got to flip it over his shoulder to Gary Payton. You now have the opportunity to flip it over your shoulder to potentially Kevin Durant. That changes the game and it changes the way that Steph Curry plays, because so many people have said, well, Steph's losing a step, this and that. Look, he is. He's getting older. You can see it real time. But at the same time, he's never had this little help around him, right? So the way to free him up, the way to free up a shooter and get him clean looks, which Steph Curry can still bang threes. Bang! It's what he does. And we want more double bangs. And the way to get that is to bring in Kevin Durant. Let's start off with the way that they could make this work financially. You've been Poindexter. You've been crunching the numbers. How would they get this move done before we get into why the Warriors would do it, why the Suns would do it, and then the Draymond and KD layer?
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at some of the potential moves they could do here, I mean, I think fundamentally it's going to be Wiggins involved, right? And I mean, I think there's probably a chip that's going to have to move in this too is Jimmy, right, out of Miami, and seeing how that affects this potential transaction. But
at this point, Jimmy better learn Greek, man.
Yeah, correct. Or Mandarin, because he might be playing in Shanghai next season. But looking at this sort of transaction, I mean, it's going to be Wiggins primarily. That's going to be the main salary dump, right? Because Wiggins is making, call it 26. And then if we trade for KD, it's going to be Kuminga involved, right? There's some chatter of people saying, oh, can we keep one of those wings? That's fundamentally not going to happen. I don't think that that's realistic. I think it's going to be Wiggins and Kuminga. And then after that, you're looking at the veterans that are on our roster, right? It could be the expirings, which could be GP2. It could be Kevon. Those are less than ideal. If we can have a pie in the sky scenario, you can throw in a Kyle, you can throw in a Buddy. But then that's where you start looking at, okay, do we have to bring in a third or a fourth team to maybe get Phoenix those expiring veteran deals and keep them off our books? Because if there's a way that we can keep ideally, this would be a total pie in the sky here and complete optimistic and rose-colored glasses, right? But if you can keep Dennis coming off the bench as your sixth man to lead that second unit, put him on, there we go. And they are a little broken, as they should be, right? Because I think we both.
It was after that 50-point loss to the Celtics. I snapped these things in half live on air, not thinking that Kevin Durant was going to be a possibility. But hey, maybe I'll have to find another. I don't know where these came from, but
we got Amazon for that. But if there's a way that we can do that, and it's going to be JK, it's going to be Wiggins, and then it's going to be a matter of some veterans that we have on the roster and make a sort of consolidation trade here, and then frankly picks, right? And this is an opportunity where if you can get literally 2 out of the top 3 players from their generation, Sans, LeBron, and put them back together and let them compete for a championship, you do it. Because ultimately, as we've seen a few times this season, Steph definitely still has it. Steph can be a 1A or a 1B, but we need someone next to him that enables him to produce at an efficient and effective level.
And we know how Steve Kerr feels about Kevin Durant, saying that he is the greatest blend of size, athleticism, and skill he has ever seen in his life. So I would have to think that he's not vetoing this if Joey Lightyear says we're making this move. I will say this, man. It's not necessarily a Lightyear's move, right? It's a very short-sighted move. I will say this. The Warriors don't really have – it doesn't seem like they have a plan regardless. That's why I'm like, you may as well just go all in right now. You get the contracts off the books come 2027, 2028, and then you start a rebuild. But you give this thing one last shot, because the way that they're working right now, where it's just, let's be middle of the pack, let's wait till next offseason, yada, yada, it's not going to work regardless. So the way that you do this thing is you try to get as entertaining, as good as possible. And we know that Kevin Durant works in this offense. You can say whatever you want about Steve Kerr. I know a lot of Warriors fans want Steve Kerr out the door. But that being said, a lot of internet Steve Kerr Warriors fans. But with that being said, we know one thing is that his scheme still gets open looks. Now, they don't 100%. Knock him down at a very consistent clip, but the numbers back up that the Warriors, have top 5 percentage in best looks out of all teams. So.
And Chuck, there's the other thing to think about too, right? Is if we do somehow get our hands on KD, if KD comes home, if he comes back to the Bay, the other thing is this isn't a system that's foreign to him, right? He's played in this system. He knows how to play in this system, which is something that can't be overlooked, right? There's not going to be that warm-up period of, oh, okay, well, now we kind of got to get adjusted. We have to get acclimated. We got a new guy in the mix. How is this going to look? What's it going to feel like? If KD comes back to the Bay, if KD's playing backside alongside of Steph, Draymond, and whoever else is still on the roster, whether that's Looney, whether that's GP2 in the starting lineup there, if we keep both those guys, he's played with these guys before. He knows what they're like. He knows how to play in this system, which is something that is very unique about this situation and would totally make him a plug and play and immediately give the Warriors what we've been lacking all season.
Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. We're 8 minutes in and we haven't explained the reality of this. Chris Mannix from SI, there's about 5 people at this point that are pointing to sources, but Chris Mannix from SI is the reporter that I've seen that has the most social media followers with 200,000 plus. He's not a clickbait guy by any means. And he's saying the Warriors are indeed serious about reuniting with Kevin Durant, sources told Sports Illustrated. And with efforts to acquire Jimmy Butler's stalled rivals, execs believe the Suns are strongly considering Durant deals before the deadline. Grant Afseth, who's not a clickbait guy either. He's like a Anthony Slater of the Dallas scene. He gives some smoke. I don't know how he got this tip, but he's saying multiple league sources have told me there is increasing belief that Kevin Durant lands with the Golden State Warriors. Plenty has to happen, but the Warriors' pursuit of this trade has been aggressive. Just figured I'd mention this as something to watch as the deadline looms. And then you had one from a from a Phoenix Suns reporter, radio guy, I believe it was, that popped in there and said something is coming with a K-U-M.
Yep. So I think that's an allusion to Kuminga. So I think
and he said it's going to be a big next 48 hours before that.
And I think, frankly, too, Chuck, it's going to be something else to think about. Is it's not just about the next 48 before the deadline. It's really about the next 24, right? Because the Warriors need to get clarity on whether or not this is something that can happen. Because if not, I think it's been made obvious to you, me, everyone else that's been watching the team this season is, we need a little bit something else, right? Even with Kuminga healthy and Draymond healthy and everyone back, we still need something added to the roster for this team to compete. And so if it's not going to be a big splash like KD, the front office has to give themselves enough time to adjust their strategy and go out and potentially find another option, right? And I hope personally that that's not someone like a Jimmy, given the way we've seen things play out in Miami. He's made an indication that he doesn't want to come to Golden State. I don't want to trade away youth for someone that doesn't want to be here. And equally too, I think it's someone that we've talked about that would be interesting if it's not going to be KD, but we need a needle moving deal, is someone like a Zion, right? Like Vooch doesn't do anything for this roster that makes us truly, I guess concretely and, really makes us much more interesting than we currently are as it's constructed.
Yeah, and Zion would have to be on the market. That's the biggest thing. And it sounds like the Warriors have made calls to everyone. So if they made the call to New Orleans, that move's either going to transpire or it's not, because Golden State's in the mix with everyone. But it sounds like one of the big reasons the Warriors did not go after Zach LaVine, or they went after him, but one of the reasons the deal did not get done is because it stalled a little bit because the Warriors are thinking bigger. They're thinking Kevin Durant. This is serious. Could KD be coming back to the Bay Area? We're going to debate this. Why would the Suns do it? Again, why would the Warriors do it? I'm seeing some comments now coming in saying, do not get older. Let's make our pitches on the pros and the cons of this deal. And Draymond Green and Kevin Durant didn't end well. Could they rekindle that fire? We'll talk about it coming up.
I don't give a damn about no damn Drake night.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. If you're looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, comedy show, sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can sometimes be a headache. But with Gametime Picks, it has never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Gametime Picks for a while now. Here's why I love it. Quite frankly, it's the seat feature for me. It's a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like. Panoramic view in the venue. It is reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Gametime's lowest price guarantee. You find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if life comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Back to the show.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
Kevin Durant for a couple of those NBA championships for the Golden State Warriors, and it would be awesome to see if they can get another one, bringing him in the mix. We will see, as the sources are saying, that there is increasing belief that Kevin Durant will wind up a Golden State Warrior. We have until Thursday to, get the details of that trade and see if it actually happens. But why would the Warriors do this? Kevin Durant's 36 years old. He's also still unreal. Unreal.
He's having an all-NBA season, Chuck.
Top 10 in the league good. Numbers-wise, top 10 in the league good. You know how I know that? Because he was 9th in MVP voting last year, and he has the same numbers as last year. Played 75 games a season ago. It's on pace to play in 70-ish this year. 36 minutes per night. You don't see the Warriors run guys 36 minutes often, aside from Andrew Wiggins. 36 a night for KD. 27 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 52% for the floor, 40% from 3. And again, say whatever you want about Steve Kerr, but the offense still favors a guy that can knock down shots, and the Warriors do not have enough of them right now. Curry's been getting doubled and tripled for forever. You add in Durant, teams aren't going to defend Curry like they did 2 days ago. But here's the thing. In order for this to work, and the defense, I don't watch Durant's defense as closely as I once did. I don't think it's as good as it was the last time he was in a Warriors jersey, but he's still solid, and he's long as hell, and he would be fine there and would not hurt you in that regard. But in order for the Warriors to get this done, it sounds like one of two things, or two of two things pretty much have to happen. One, Bradley Beal would not be traded, because if Bradley Beal is not traded, I think the Phoenix Suns are more inclined to say, you know what? We're going nowhere. We didn't bring in Jimmy Butler. That's the other piece of this. Let's seriously entertain those trade offers that the Warriors are throwing us. We'd get Wiggins. We'd get Kuminga. We'd get expiring contracts or numbers off the books. But the big thing for the Phoenix Suns would be if the Warriors are offering, and I'm looking at their draft capital right now, they have pretty much all their first-round picks. They do not have their first-round pick in 2030. But aside from that, 29, 28, 27, 26, you can obviously stagger those and throw them a 27 and 29 first-round pick, a 26 and 28 first-round pick. But 27, 29, or 29, 31, if you can even give away the 31 at this point, that would seem most likely that the Suns would be interested in, because one, Devin Booker is clearly the cornerstone of their future right now, not an aging Kevin Durant. And two, when Kevin Durant and Steph Curry do wind up calling it quits, hanging up the sneakers, the Warriors are most likely going to suck. I mean, all paths lead, if the Warriors were to make this move, to a dark era for at least a minute, right? You give up those draft picks, or maybe they wouldn't if they, didn't give up the draft picks, but unless you fleece the Suns, the draft picks are going to be attached there, and those would be valuable. Most likely. You're talking lottery picks. You're talking potential number one picks. If those are unprotected first rounders, it does make sense for the Phoenix Suns in that regard long term. Jonathan Kuminga is nice. Andrew Wiggins is on a team-friendly deal. He is a good player. It makes a little bit of sense from that perspective. I don't think many Suns fans think that this will actually happen, but we will see, man. When there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke surrounding this.
Well, we're seeing a ton of reports on Twitter. Also Jake Fisher was talking about it as well, actually. And so I think there is a possibility of this actually truly happening and transpiring. I think one of the things that's important to think about is something that you just described about Bradley Beal. It's really, if Beal holds them hostage, then I think they realize, okay, the Phoenix Suns in their current construction is not a true contender, right? And I think that's just going to be something that their management has to come to terms with. And if they're able to retool a little bit, and get more athletic on the wings with Wiggins and Kuminga, stock up a little bit more draft capital, then it makes sense for them to get at least something for KD rather than keep trotting this out and being an NBA purgatory. And equally too, I mean, when I think about the Warriors and what the rationale would be for them to make this trade, it's obvious. Besides, you get Kevin Durant, you get one of the best players in the league, and you pair him with his old teammates, his old running mates, and you can compete again. I think the other aspect is, it's something that you do mortgage the farm for, because does the fan base really want to watch, Steph Curry go out in these next 2-3 years with a team that's hovering just above 500? And
they will watch it. That's the thing. I mean, we were at Chase last night on a Monday against a god-awful Magic team, and that place was packed. So it's not like they have to make this move. It's more so just it gives you direction somewhat. Now, it's not necessarily a great direction, but at least
better than purgatory.
Hey, you're out of purgatory. We are riding this thing until the wheels fall off.
And you're taking a swing.
Exactly when those wheels fall off, because Kevin Durant is on a deal through 2026. And then in 26, 27, he's an unrestricted free agent at age 38. You could potentially, sign him to a deal there, an aging star, or, you get the rest of this year and you get all of next year to try and compete. And then from there, you kind of figure it out. This would also allow you to not extend Jonathan Kuminga and throw potentially $30+ million at him. Although all indications have been that the Warriors have been pretty happy with the way that he's played, but he's not a cornerstone. I think you and I both truly believe that the Warriors don't have their cornerstone right now. So if you weren't to make this move and you were just to get the Vooch and give away a protected first and ride this into the offseason, and then you look at the free agents that are out there, they're all old. First of all, a lot of them are. Miles Turner may be your best fit. And is he going to bring you an NBA championship?
No, exactly. And what's the point of this, right? Is the point to try and win championships, or is the
that
point
and entertainment? I mean, it's entertainment at the end of the day.
Correct. It is. But the goal of the players out there is to win championships. And if Steph has built this franchise, because let's not forget, right? I mean, the Warriors, I mean, they were one of the most poorly run operations in the NBA prior to Steph being drafted and making that trade of Monte Ellis and whatnot and deciding to ride with Steph. I mean, the Warriors were a laughingstock. I remember the days of watching, Speedy Claxton and Donald Foyle back in the early 2000s. And I mean, that I much
Kobe
prefer
Bryant's
watching
courtside, man. On Kobe Bryant's courtside back in the day, it was some teams with Muggsy, Eric Dampier. It was
Nick Van Exel. I mean,
for a minute.
it was. And, I think they owe it to Steph to give him a chance to compete, because that's what I think. I talked about this with Carrie on the airwaves last week, but the issue with the Warriors right now is it's a miscasting of roles, right? And so, Dennis was I think a great acquisition, right? Why would you rather have D'Anthony Melton just burning a hole in your pocket with a torn ACL? Go get Dennis, right? It makes sense.
But they brought him in to be a scorer, and that's one thing that he has not been. I mean, last night on my prize pick, my prize pick 6 for 6 that I went, by the way. Pat him back, first time doing it, just bang, knocked them all down. Schroeder's over-under was 9. So, he's not the 19-point guy that he was, or 17-point guy that he was in Brooklyn.
Well, correct. And I think that's just I think it's a matter of how our system operates and the way he can kind of fit into it. But equally, it's, if Schroeder is going to be your sixth man that you can kind of just run and gun with, or, realistically kind of your fourth or fifth option, that's great. But I think we're trying to make him be, option 2 or 3, which on a good competitive team is something that he's not. The same way that Wiggins on, a good night can perform like a 2. But I think, like last night when he scores 25, everyone that's watching is thinking to themselves, oh, that was a good game from Wiggins there, as opposed to, 25 points being table stakes for Wiggins, right? And so that's what I talk about, kind of a miscasting of roles. Is Wiggins is ideally, your third option. If Wiggins is your third option, getting paid $26 million, being able to be a great point of attack defender.
You're a contender, man. You're a contender.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why
the good spot.
21-22 team won, because you had Steph as option A, and then you had options B, C, D, and Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green is kind of the nuclei, and then also Andrew Wiggins in there, and they were all kind of equal in their own roles, and it worked that way. They don't have that right now.
Correct. And that's why it makes sense to make a move for someone like KD.
So let me ask you this, because Sway says it right now. Listen to yourselves. This is how he's saying it. I can imagine Sway. Listen to yourselves. If the Suns feel it can't work with KD, Booker, and Beal, then it won't work here. What would you say to Sway?
I think it's it's just different roster constructions, different systems. I think what the Suns really lack, is, they have Tyus Jones, but they don't have a true kind of on-ball creator the same way that we have with Steph, and someone that can really execute that way. I mean, Booker can do it, but it's not really his go-to. Bradley Beal, I think, as everyone has seen now, was just glorified numbers playing in the swamp out there, rotting in Washington, with all due respect to the great people out there. But I think we're seeing that those stats and numbers and his, efficiency was inflated. So I think if you bring in, Sway, to answer your question there, if you bring in someone like KD to slot back into the system, you still have Steph. And this is what I think is really important. And it's who actually is going out. And so if we're able to keep GP2 and Kevon Looney, if this deal even happens, right? Again, as I say this is the most optimistic pie in the sky, glass half full, the glass is overflowing scenario. Because then your starting lineup can look something like a Steph, GP2, KD, Draymond, and Looney. You have GP2 to be your point of attack defender. You can slot Draymond on the primary forward option there, and then you can have KD and Steph not necessarily having to take the leading defensive assignments, because that's something else that you see with Phoenix is KD's really actually having to play the kind of primary defender role and the primary point of attack defender. And it's just something that, I was listening to a couple of people, and there's some people that were close in KD's camp, actually, that runs his podcast with him, the et ceteras. And he was talking live, and he said, KD does not want to have to be the primary defender. He doesn't want to have to be the athlete. And so if you're able to keep someone like a GP2 to kind of be your point of attack defender, who we know can guard, 1 to 4, really, that would be an ideal situation. So I think just to answer that question of what makes it a little bit different, I think that's what makes it different.
I want to answer this question from Glenn coming back, because he says, how do you two know that JK is not a cornerstone? I'm glad the two hosts can see into the future. Yes, we're like, that's so Raven, man. We can. I
got my crystal ball, Glenn. You want me to go grab it? I can do that for you.
Will I win? Will I win? Yeah, so we're going to discuss that, and we're also going to talk about the dynamics between Draymond and Kevin Durant. How would that work out? Let's discuss it coming up on Locked On Warriors.
Who cares how I feel? It's about winning basketball games.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. Let's discuss BetterHelp for a minute. Therapy, obviously, very important. Relationship green flags are important to get into your life. We hear about the red flags that we should avoid, but what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags that we talk about from time to time? Here to tell you that if you're not sure what they look like, good news is therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building friendship, just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that you love back, helps you develop healthy boundaries, improves your communication skills, and empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. If you need to switch therapists, you could do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Let's go back to the show.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
I want to answer this question, Mike. It's from Glenn. How do you two know JK is not a cornerstone? Glad that the two hosts can see into the future. Big thing for me is I thought that this was the year we'd fully see it. And we've seen flashes, and we know that JK is a great player. I mean, he'd be tough to give up in a deal. At the same time, you do have to extend him. You do have to extend him. Like, there is that aspect to where you have no idea what his deal is going to look like. You have no idea how much money he's going to be asking for. You have no idea if the Brooklyn Nets won't come in and throw him $50 million, and all of a sudden you have to match him as a max player. I don't think that's going to happen, especially coming off an injury. But Kuminga's awesome. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. Cornerstone, though, is an entirely different word. Cornerstone is Kevin Durant, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Someone that's putting up 27, 6, and 4 on 40% from deep, 50% from the floor, grabbing rebounds, still defending at a pretty high level. That is a cornerstone. And if you're going to tell me that Jonathan Kuminga at 22 is as good as Kevin Durant was at 19 or 20, you're out of your mind. I mean, it's just a completely different game from talking about fringe all-star, maybe 2-3-time all-star, to one of the best players in the world.
Correct. And I think cornerstone, even, Chuck, is the way that we can say this with such confidence is comparing Kuminga to even someone that is not even someone like a KD, right? I mean, look at what Amen Thompson did in Houston last night, right? 33, 11, and 10. When have we ever seen Jonathan Kuminga ever produce like that? When have we ever seen
30-point games? Because he's the only guy in the NBA right now that has multiple 30-point games off the bench. But that is a cherry pick stat, because most guys that are scoring 30 aren't coming off the bench.
Correct. And also this is Amen Thompson's second season, right? I believe. And he's already having games like that where he's showing flashes and really popping. I'm not, again, discrediting the strides that we've seen JK make this season, because he has. He's definitely improved. He's had his multiple 30-point games. He started before he got hurt. I was at that Sixers game a few weeks ago too, where he was starting to actually create pretty well too, and making the kind of next read and making those extra passes, and getting into the paint, attracting to, passing in rhythm, hitting a shooter in the pocket, and the shooter knocks it down. And so JK was making those strides. And so again, not taking that away from him, but fundamentally just comparing him as a player to someone like an Amen Thompson. When have we ever seen him produce a game like that and give us a triple double and actually be able to produce off the bounce consistently and be able to hit jump shots consistently and do these things? And that's the delineation and the juxtaposition between Cornerstone to a good contributor. I think realistically, Kuminga, his production, it will look different than what Wiggins looks like. But I think if you're telling me that Kuminga has a career similar to Andrew Wiggins' career, I think that's probably his ceiling, right? Wiggins has been an all-star but it's a damn good career, right? NBA champion, all-star, and realistically, a low end to very high end third option on an NBA team and on a contender. And I think JK can do that, but he's not a cornerstone.
Yeah, to me, Cornerstone's the guy that drives ticket sales when nobody else can. There's only so many in the league. A lot of teams have never had. I mean, you look at like the Indiana Pacers. I mean, sure, I guess you could consider Reggie Miller a cornerstone for sure.
He's a cornerstone.
But take away him. I mean, I don't know if they've ever had one aside from him. The list goes on and on.
Tyrese is the closest thing to that since Reggie, right? Tyrese Halliburton started to jump in. But I mean, you can make an argument that before his injury last year.
Tyrese Halliburton is multiple time All-Star. Cornerstone is a completely different level to me. And everyone can look at the definition however they want, but I look at it, someone like Kevin Durant, he comes into the league and his first year in Seattle, he's averaging, 20-5. By his third year in Oklahoma City, he's 21 years of age. He just picked up his first beverage, his first dad's soda, and he's averaging 30 points, 8 rebounds per game. He's getting to the line 10 times. He's second in MVP voting. Like, with all due respect to Jonathan Kuminga, he's nowhere near MVP.
He's not
votes.
that. He's not that.
He's just not.
I saw KD live at Key Arena his rookie season in Seattle, and yeah, I mean they were not a good team, so got really good tickets for really cheap at midcourt. It was fantastic, but I think he scored 33 points. That was his career high at the time, and you just saw it then. You said, okay, wow, this guy's different, and you can see why he had that hype coming out of Texas. And I mean, while we've seen JK, have a couple of good 30-point games, and he brings a different dynamic to the team, he's not going to have a career like a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry. And if he has a career like Andrew Wiggins, which, like we said, is a really good NBA career, truly is. And I'm not saying that this is by no means taking anything away from Wiggins. He's had a phenomenal NBA career. And if JK is able to achieve that at the same rate, that's great. But would anyone say, oh, let's build a team around Andrew Wiggins and that will be the guy that can lead us to an NBA championship? No.
A lot of fun, man. A now 15-time All-Star Kevin Durant would be coming back to the place where he got his titles, his finals MVPs, to see if he can take down the young guys. And obviously, if it did happen, there'd be the chatter all season leading into next offseason. All right, could LeBron opt out of his deal? And it would be Steph, Curry, and LeBron to go for one final sunset tour. Tell you what, forget LeBron. Let's just talk Durant right now. A season that was stale, because that's what this season was. It has been stale, minus like Dallas and Oklahoma City and a few other games. That stale season can turn into storybook stuff overnight if they actually were to make this move. So
real quick, Chuck, just to jump in here, because we're doing this live and we're keeping our eyes on the phones and on Twitter. Kevin Durant just downgraded to doubtful tonight. So he's not going to be playing most likely. So he could be on the move. Put them on.
Oh my goodness, folks. Sound the alarm.
On. This could happen. This could really, really happen.
Our guy, Ross Carpenter, goes by, I think, the Green Goblin or the Green Lantern on YouTube. He's on every single show. I'm convinced he's a Lakers fan. I have no idea who he's a fan of. He's fuming right now. He's like that Arthur meme with the fist. Like, God bless. He's not a happy camper. He's been saying this entire show that the Warriors would suck. Like, oh, go ahead, get older. Watch KD suit up in a Warriors uniform and see what happens. I'll tell you this: it would be fun. At the very least, it would be a whole lot of fun to watch that happen, to see the greatest combination of size and skill ever in a Golden State Warriors jersey. We will see if it happens. But hey, it's as simple as they have no cornerstone. They probably don't see Kuminga ever being that guy. You'd have to pay him anyway.
Because he's not going to be.
You just ride this thing until the wheels fall off. You then have $100+ million open up for free agents in 2028. You see how it looks when the day comes. You don't have any draft capital. It could get ugly, but in the moment, man, in the moment, I'll tell you what. I mean, that Monday at Thrive City was pretty fun last night, but KD's coming to town. We'll be down there every night, man.
I mean, Chuck, this is one of those things I want to, while it's, the players are at different stages of their careers, right? With Luka and KD, it was funny because I was listening to Nick Wright. He did an emergency pod after the trade. I mean, when I got that, people texting me the Shams tweet, I was like, this can't be real. The Luka to Los Angeles, and Nick Wright had a take in his podcast where he said, I'm sure that the reports out of Dallas are going to be that, oh yeah, he was a little out of shape, and oh yeah, he liked his sweet tea, and then that's when Nick Wright said, who cares? Who cares? Who gives a rip? With a little bit more colorful language. It's Luka Doncic. And right now, when I think about trading Andrew Wiggins and JK and some picks for KD, who's still an all-NBA player, and that could vault us into another level of contention and actually make things interesting and provide Stephen Curry a chance to compete for another NBA title, that's when I say, who cares? Who gives a rip? Make that language colorful if you want and in everyone's imagination, but you do it. If you have a chance to pair those two again, you do it. Full stop.
Mike Loginoff, you can check him out on Twitter @_the LOGPOD. That's @the LogPod. We'll keep you updated on this. I mean, we've been doing a lot of talks as if this has some serious legs. All we have is sources. There have been sources that have told us things for a long time, and we've been very, very disappointed. We're going to monitor, but Durant's doubtful. The league sources are saying that they believe this has a possibility of happening. The Warriors apparently are extremely aggressive. We know Steve Kerr loves coaching Kevin Durant. We know Steph Curry loves playing with Kevin Durant. Real quick with Draymond Green, allow it. Why would I even ask? Who cares if you would allow it or not? Like, would there be any issues there moving down the road? Because obviously day one, it's not going to be an issue. These guys want to win, but down the road.
I mean, I think that both of them have moved past that. I think we've seen multiple instances of them, chatting after games, them kind of smoothing things over. Let's also not forget that they won gold in 2020 together on the Olympic team with KD, Draymond, Steph, and Steve. After the fact, things went fine then. I think that also there's a component of them being older and more mature now as well, right? And understanding, hey, all right, yeah, we're getting a little bit older. Dre, you got some more gray hair in that beard. Steph's looking a little bit older. I'm not moving as well as I once was. I think we put this all aside and let's go give this thing one last run.
One final hurrah, man. Just trade what's Clay making? Like $15 million. So we got Buddy Hield and Kyle. How about Hield and Anderson for Clay? Bring them back. And,
well, he's not. I don't think they can. Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah, bring Iggy back. Bring Iggy back.
All right, dude. Good stuff. We will keep you posted on whether the Warriors make this trade. That is Mike Loginoff. I'm Chuck Walter. This is Locked On Warriors, free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts, and you can check us out on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with us, everyone.